The morning the truth began to rot inside her started like any other, too quiet, too bright, too ordinary for what it would become. Electra had grown used to the rhythm of absence, Will's half-hearted excuses, his phone lighting up at midnight with numbers she wasn't allowed to see, the way his voice softened only when he thought no one was listening. At first, she told herself it was grief, that his mind, fractured by loss, needed space to heal from the guilt of Luna's death. Everyone in town said so. He'll recover, they whispered. Time will fix him. But time didn't fix Will. It only made him quieter, more distracted, his silences stretching into something like lies. Electra was not naive. Love, in her world, was a battlefield dressed up as devotion. She had fought for it before, fought for men who used her, for jobs that broke her, for reputations that burned her. But Will had been different, or so she thought. He looked at her as though she were solid ground in a world built on glass. When Luna was alive, that had been enough to make Electra endure the endless comparisons. Luna's youth, Luna's charm, Luna's unpredictable fire. But when Luna vanished, when the crash tore through the night and the headlines turned her name into a tragedy, Electra finally felt free. The ghost that haunted her relationship was gone. And yet, the shadow of Luna lingered. Everywhere, in every conversation, every pause. At first, Electra pitied him. Will's grief seemed genuine. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, his eyes hollow from crying. She held him through those nights, tracing her fingers through his hair, whispering that he was safe now, that she wouldn't let the world destroy him the way it destroyed her. But somewhere beneath his sorrow, she began to sense a strange flicker of hope, as if he were keeping a secret so fragile it might shatter if she touched it. He would leave the house without explanation, take calls in the hallway, disappear for hours, then return with the same tired story. I just needed air. The lies were small at first. Then they multiplied. Electra tried to convince herself she was imagining things, but the signs were relentless. His phone always faced down on the table. His scent sometimes carried the faint antiseptic of hospitals. And when she asked him about Luna just to see his reaction, his entire body stiffened. That was when she began to fear that maybe Luna hadn't died after all. The town, meanwhile, was devouring itself with rumor. Some claimed Luna's body had been washed out to sea. Others swore she'd been seen boarding a bus in Santa Monica. A few even whispered that she'd been handled, that someone with too much power and too much to lose had made her disappear. Electra heard these things at dinner parties, in hair salons, in the murmured gossip that drifted like smoke through Beverly Hills. She said nothing, but she listened. And when she saw Will smile for the first time in months, too suddenly, too freely, she knew the gossip wasn't entirely wrong. One evening, after he left abruptly claiming a business meeting, she followed him. She told herself it was nothing, just curiosity, just proof that her paranoia was unfounded. But when his car turned off the main road, winding through the hills toward the industrial edge of town, her heartbeat began to match the rhythm of the tires. She parked a block away, her hands trembling as she slipped into the shadows. The building before her was old, its windows dim, its sign long faded. She recognized it immediately. The Spencer-funded charity clinic that had been at the center of recent scandals, the one rumored to handle the rich and guilty. She crept closer, heels silent on the cracked pavement. Through a side window she saw him.
Will.
Sitting beside a hospital bed. And there, beneath the flicker of fluorescent light, lay Luna. Pale, breathing, alive. The world tilted. For a long moment, she couldn't move. She pressed her hand against the cold glass, half expecting the image to vanish, but it didn't. Will was holding Luna's hand, his face bent low, whispering something Electra couldn't hear. The tenderness of it, the way he looked at her, was unbearable. Every ounce of pity she had ever felt for him evaporated. The man she loved, the man who swore he wanted a future with her, was sitting in a secret room keeping another woman's heart beating. She stumbled backward into the darkness, bawl rising in her throat. The night air felt too thin. All the pity, the devotion, the patience, it all crystallized into something colder, sharper. Betrayal didn't break her. It transformed her. For days, Electra said nothing. She returned home, smiled when Will entered the room, pretended not to notice the new distance between them. But inside, her thoughts were fevered. Every detail of that night replayed on a loop. The machines, the whisper, the way Luna's chest rose and fell. Luna wasn't just alive. She was pregnant. That truth burned in Electra's mind like acid. She had seen it, the gentle curve of her stomach beneath the sheets, the way Will's hand lingered there. Her first instinct was to destroy him, to expose the secret, drag him down with the empire that had built itself on lies. But vengeance was too easy, too final. She wanted more than destruction. She wanted control. In the days that followed, Electra began to weave her web. She learned to ask the right questions, to plant the right suspicions. Her connections in the media, friends she had charmed during her modeling days, owed her favors. She started leaking fragments of truth, disguised as rumor. An anonymous source claimed Luna Nozawa was still alive. Another suggested the Spencers were funding a black market clinic. Within a week, every news outlet in Los Angeles was chasing ghosts, every family in the city whispering her name. But Electra didn't stop there. She watched Will unravel under the weight of his guilt. He grew paranoid, checking his phone constantly, snapping at her over nothing. Each time he pulled away, she leaned closer, playing the role of the worried lover. "You can tell me anything," she whispered one night, her voice soft as honey. "I can help you." When he didn't answer, she kissed his neck and let her fingers trace his jaw. "Whatever it is, I'll protect you." The next morning, she copied the data from his phone onto her own. The secrets she found were worse than she imagined. The clinic's records, the payments, the fake identities, it was all there. But what gutted her most wasn't the evidence. It was the messages. Hundreds of them, all to the same number, Dr. Keegan. Each one pleading for updates, for reassurance, for Luna. Is she stable? Has she woken up? Does the baby still have a heartbeat? The baby. That single word shattered the last illusion she had of a relationship. Will hadn't just saved Luna. He had saved the child that should have never existed, the child that now stood between them like a ghost wearing flesh. Electra's grief twisted into clarity. She realized that she could use this, not just against Will, but against everyone who had ever dismissed her. She had been treated like decoration for years, another woman orbiting the Spencer name. But now she had power. The kind of power that could bend men like Will to her will. The next evening, she confronted him. Not with rage, but with calm precision. She waited until he returned home, exhausted, guilt heavy on his face. She poured him a drink, handed it to him, and smiled. "I know," she said simply. His glass froze halfway to his lips. "What are you talking about?" "Luna," she whispered. "The clinic. The baby." For a heartbeat, he said nothing. Then his face crumbled. "You followed me." "Yes." "Then you know why I did it." "Oh, I know," she said, her tone smooth as glass. "You did it because you couldn't bear to lose her. You did it because you still love her." She leaned closer, her perfume intoxicating, her voice dripping with venomous sweetness. "But now you'll do something for me. You'll make it right." He tried to deny her, to plead, to reason, but she had already won. The next morning, an anonymous tip reached the press. Details of the Spencer family's secret clinic, of the missing woman who might still be alive, of the tangled bloodlines that linked the Spencers and the Forrestos. The story exploded. Stock prices plunged. Rivals circled like sharks. And while the city devoured itself in speculation, Electra stood at the center, pulling every string. Her plan was elegant, almost poetic. She painted herself as Will's loyal fiancée, standing by him as his world fell apart. "He's just trying to protect a woman who is sick," she told reporters, her tears perfectly timed. "He's misunderstood." In private, she reminded Will that she alone could control the narrative. "If you want to protect Luna," she said, "you'll protect me first."
And he did.
He married her quietly, a small ceremony under the pretext of stability. The press called it a union born from tragedy. In truth, it was blackmail wrapped in vows. But control, once tasted, is addictive. As weeks turned into months, Elektra began to play a larger game. She leaked new information in measured doses, each revelation destabilizing another player. A rumor about Luna's recovery here, a whisper about Bill's involvement there. She fed the media contradictions, half-truths designed to blur the line between victim and villain. The town became her theater, each headline a scene she directed. Will grew hollow under the weight of her manipulation. He still visited Luna in secret, but even that comfort began to crumble. Elektra had men watching him, photographers ready to sell their silence. Every time he left the house, she reminded him, if they find out she's alive, they'll take the baby. They'll take everything. Her empire of deceit grew, but so did the rot beneath it. Because power built on fear is never stable. The truth, suppressed too long, began to leak in ways even she couldn't control. Luna regained consciousness. She remembered fragments, the crash, the cold, Will's voice. And then she remembered another, a woman's reflection in the window outside her room, watching. Elektra's mask began to crack. The press, once loyal to her whispers, started questioning their source. A journalist traced one of her leaks to a private account in her name. The Forresters, tired of being collateral damage, launched their own counteroffensive, hiring investigators to expose the puppet master behind the chaos. When the story finally broke, when it was revealed that Elektra herself had orchestrated the rumors, blackmailed Will, and manipulated the public, she didn't deny it. Instead, she smiled for the cameras. I told the truth, she said. I just told it better than anyone else. Her arrest became the spectacle she had always craved. Flashbulbs erupted like fireworks as she was led away, flawless even in handcuffs. Behind her, Will stood motionless, the weight of everything he had done and everything she had destroyed pressing down like a storm. And yet, even then, some part of him pitied her. Because he understood her in ways he wished he didn't. They were both victims of the same disease, the need to control what love had already ruined. In the end, the scandal consumed them all. The Spencers' empire fractured, Luna vanished again, this time by choice, and Elektra's name became a symbol for every woman who refused to be forgotten, no matter the cost. And somewhere, in the wreckage of lies and longing, Will finally realize the truth that had eluded him from the beginning. Love built on secrets isn't love at all, it's captivity. But by then, it was far too late. Under the silver light of a Los Angeles moon, the night Luna Nozawa vanished into tragedy unfolded like a fever dream that none of them would ever wake from. The city was restless that evening, the wind scraping against the glass towers, the echo of distant surf whispering against the cliffs, and the unrelenting hum of unfinished stories between lovers, rivals, and liars. By the time her body was found at the bend of the coastal road, the air itself seemed to carry her name like a curse. Luna. The girl with too many secrets, too much heart, and too many enemies who mistook her vulnerability for weakness. The accident, the police would call it. But in the days that followed, as truth began to fracture and shimmer like broken glass, it became clear that nothing about that night was accidental. Someone had been driving the car that hit her, someone they all knew. It began earlier that day with the kind of unease that no one could name. Luna had been restless, pacing along the beach near Malibu, her phone in hand, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. She had been running, not from a person, exactly, but from the weight of what she had uncovered. Whatever it was, it had sent her spiraling into the dark, desperate to reach someone before it was too late. The last message she sent was never received. It hung suspended in digital limbo. You don't know what they've done. When news of the crash broke, the Forresters and Logans were quick to offer sympathy, but beneath their polished words lay dread. The police ruled it a hit-and-run, but there was paint residue on the guardrail, pearl white, matching several cars owned by the people closest to her. Within hours, the names began to swirl like smoke. Ridge, Brooke, Liam, Hope, Steffi, Finn. The usual web of intersecting loyalties and betrayals made everyone both victim and suspect. Yet the truth was stranger and more intimate than any of them could have imagined. The first to be questioned was Steffi, though she had been home that night, curled up beside Finn in the house overlooking the sea. Security footage from the property confirmed it. The alarm had been armed, the lights dimmed, their silhouettes visible through the window. Finn, loyal as ever, refused to entertain the possibility that anyone within their family could be involved. But guilt has a way of infiltrating even the most innocent hearts, and as he stared at the crash photos, something in him flickered. Recognition, perhaps, or denial too fierce to admit. Eric and Donna had been at home as well, lost in their own quiet evening, their lives slowing to the rhythm of age and comfort. Zend, however, could not account for his whereabouts. He had left the Forrester estate after a fight with RJ, his temper hot and his mind clouded. Rumors whispered that Luna had been the cause, that she had discovered something in the Forrester archives that could expose him. But when questioned, Zend swore he had been nowhere near the cliffs. "You think I'd hurt her?" he said, his voice cracking. "She was trying to save me." Meanwhile, Liam and Hope, recently reconciled, clung to each other in public, their united front convincing no one. The night Luna died, their phones had pinged near the same stretch of road, but both insisted they had taken the scenic route home after dinner. "Coincidence," Hope murmured, though her eyes darted toward the ground. It was a strange choice of route for two people who had everything to lose and nothing to prove. Brooke and Ridge, too, were uneasy. Though neither had been directly involved with Luna, her presence had disrupted the fragile peace of their family. Brooke had called Luna reckless more than once, a distraction for the younger Forresters. And Ridge, who had once praised Luna's design instincts, had withdrawn his mentorship weeks before her death. They both had motives born not of hatred but of exhaustion, the kind that makes cruelty seem like practicality. Yet neither could have predicted that their own reputations would soon hang in the balance. The investigation deepened when Finn discovered something strange in Luna's autopsy, traces of an unidentified substance in her bloodstream. It wasn't alcohol or narcotics. It was something else, a sedative, likely administered hours before her death. It meant she hadn't been running away, she had been trying to escape while barely conscious. Someone had drugged her, and that someone had wanted her silenced. The police retrieved surveillance footage from nearby traffic cameras. A single car appeared in every clip near the scene of the accident, a white vehicle with tinted windows. At first, the plate was unreadable, but as the digital analysts reconstructed the sequence frame by frame, a detail emerged, a company parking sticker on the windshield. Forrester Creations. The revelation sent shockwaves through the family. Every Forrester vehicle was accounted for except one, a loaner car recently used by Remy Price, an independent contractor brought on to consult during Eric's health crisis. Remy was quiet, intelligent, and unassuming, the kind of man who slipped through rooms unnoticed. Few knew that he had crossed paths with Luna before. Fewer still knew that Luna had been investigating him for weeks, believing he was tied to a corporate espionage scheme that could collapse both Forrester Creations and Spencer Publications. When detectives tracked Remy down, he was living in a small rental outside the city, his car parked in the driveway, its front bumper recently repaired. He didn't resist arrest. In fact, when they asked about Luna, he whispered, "I didn't mean to." At the station, his story spilled out like a confession soaked in guilt and half-truths. He claimed he had been driving back from a late meeting when Luna appeared on the road, stumbling out of the fog. He said he tried to brake, but it was too late. The impact was instant, the sound unbearable. He got out, saw her body, tried to call for help, but panic consumed him. "She wasn't supposed to be there," he muttered. "She was supposed to be gone." Those words changed everything. When pressed, Remy revealed that he had been contacted earlier that week by someone within Forrester Creations, someone who had instructed him to intercept Luna before she could deliver certain documents to the press. Those documents, it turned out, implicated several high-ranking individuals in an insider trading scandal that could have destroyed the company. "I didn't know they meant kill her," he said. "They just said to stop her." But who was they? The answer remained elusive until investigators examined Remy's phone. Among hundreds of deleted messages, one number stood out: a burner phone traced to an IP address registered to the Spencer Tower. That discovery detonated the fragile truce between the Forrestos and the Spencers, turning the accident into a family war. Bill Spencer publicly denied any involvement, insisting the phone was a plant meant to incriminate him. But privately, even he began to question how deeply his company's rivalries had infected the lives of their children. Will Spencer, caught between loyalty and suspicion, searched through his father's records late at night, uncovering a paper trail of encrypted communications between Spencer Media and anonymous Forrester accounts. Each message referenced Project Luna. Whether it was a business initiative or a cover-up, he couldn't tell. What haunted him most was the implication that his own family's empire might have financed the car that killed her. Meanwhile, Steffi and Finn launched their own quiet investigation, convinced that the official story was too clean. Finn's medical report suggested that Luna's injuries didn't align with Remy's description. There were bruises inconsistent with a single impact, signs of struggle. It meant that she might have already been dying before the car struck her. The hidden run was not the cause of death, but the final act of something much larger. As weeks passed, more names emerged. Daphne Rose's ex-lover, a man rumored to have ties to underground markets in San Francisco, was spotted near the same highway that night. Zen's car, though accounted for, had been borrowed earlier that week by an unnamed driver. And Liam, who had been adamant that he and Hope were nowhere near the scene, was caught in a lie when security footage showed his car exiting the same road minutes after the crash. Each revelation splintered the family further. The Forresters accused the Spencers of framing one of their own. The Spencers accused the Forresters of orchestrating a cover-up to protect Remy. The press fed on it like vultures, turning Luna's death into spectacle. Yet amid the noise, the truth simmered quietly, waiting for the right moment to surface. That moment came when a new witness emerged, a gas station attendant who remembered seeing Luna hours before the crash. She had been terrified, trembling as she filled her tank, muttering that someone was following her. "A man," the attendant said. "Tall, dark coat, driving a white car." She had asked for directions to the police station but never made it there. The attendant's description matched Remy, but there was something off. He had been clean-shaven in every photo, yet the witness insisted the man had a small scar under his left eye. When detectives re-examined the footage from the gas station, they noticed something Remy didn't have, a signet ring glinting under the fluorescent light. A ring engraved with the Forrester insignia. The realization hit like thunder. The man driving the car that night hadn't been Remy at all. It had been someone wearing his coat, using his car. Someone with access to Forrester Creations' most intimate spaces. When the truth finally broke, it shocked even the most jaded. The driver who hit Luna was not an outsider, not a criminal hired in the shadows. It was Zen Forrester Dominguez. He confessed weeks later, his voice hollow, his eyes sunken. He hadn't meant to kill her, he said. She had threatened to expose him after discovering that he had been selling confidential Forrester designs to an international buyer. He confronted her on the cliff road, begging her to stay quiet. She panicked, ran into the street, and when he followed, she tripped into the path of his car. The sound of her body hitting the windshield had haunted him ever since. He had staged the scene as a hit-and run, swapped his car with Remy's, and fled before the police arrived. The revelation broke the family. Ridge refused to forgive him. Brooke collapsed in tears. Steffi could barely look at him. For the Spencers, it was vindication wrapped in sorrow. Bill called it justice, but Will called it tragedy. "She didn't die because of hatred," he said quietly. "She died because none of us knew how to tell the truth." In the months that followed, the trial consumed Los Angeles. Zen's confession led to new investigations into Forrester's business dealings, exposing layers of corruption that no one had dared to imagine. The fashion house that had built its legacy on beauty now stood stained by blood. And through it all, Luna's name refused to fade. Her memory lingered in every whispered conversation, every sleepless night. She had been the catalyst, the mirror that reflected everything ugly they had tried to hide. In death, she became larger than all of them, a haunting reminder that even in a city built on illusion, truth has a way of finding its light. When the final verdict came, Zen was sentenced to years behind bars, but no one celebrated. The families gathered one last time on the same coastal road where it had all begun. The sea roared below, unchanging, indifferent. Will placed a single white rose on the guardrail, his eyes distant. She deserved better, he said softly. Steffi nodded. We all did. In that moment, as the tide swallowed the sun, they understood that Luna's death had never been about one mistake or one driver. It was the inevitable collision of pride, ambition, and love, forces that had been speeding toward each other for years. The car was only the weapon. The real killer was everything they had become.